Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Coop Radio presents NASCAR stuff. Another week, some more racing happened. It should be an interesting show for us here today. No Cup Series to discuss as they are off this past week due to Easter. So anybody who's listening to this, happy belated Easter if you celebrate that. I didn't really much celebrate it. You know, it's kind of one of those small holidays that I'm not a very religious person for, and just go and hang out with family and eat food. You know, it's kind of like a Thanksgiving. It's like a smaller version of Thanksgiving to me. It was a fun weekend of racing, though. I was extremely excited for the Rockingham races. If you go back and listen to last week's episode, which I highly suggest that you do, for anybody who did check out last week's episode, I greatly appreciate you. Y'all need to comment some more, though. Y'all need to get in the comments and start typing out that shit and saying how you feeling about either me or the NASCAR Cup Series, O'Reilly Series, Truck Series, whatever. Y'all need to get in there and start talking and shit. But to anybody who does give it a click, or listens or likes or subscribes or anything, notification bell, whatever, I appreciate y'all. So not a lot to discuss this week news-wise. Pretty slow week news-wise. I did not see anything. If you want to update the NASCAR stuff, I didn't really see much on the NASCAR stuff as far as the Gabe Hart JGR stuff. I think we're still waiting on, just things to develop along. Court stuff is, all that stuff is a long process. So not too crazy news-wise during the week, but we had some stuff to talk about during the weekend. The biggest thing, we're going to jump ahead here and talk a little bit about the O'Reilly Series off the rip before we get into some of the other races previously before them on the weekend. The biggest piece of news, I think, that came out of the weekend was Cletus McFarland's debut in the O'Reilly Series. A highly controversial decision for NASCAR to allow him to race at Rockingham, trying to get his approval to race at Talladega in a few weeks. So a lot of stuff goes into, trying to get approved for certain races, and him being extremely inexperienced was a highly controversial topic. You're either split one way or the other. I did discuss this a little bit before this weekend, obviously. If you go back and listen to the previous shows, I kind of discussed my personal feelings on NASCAR allowing Cletus to race in the O'Reilly Series. So I highly suggest you go back and listen to that. But that being said, we actually got the result now of what it would look like to see somebody who doesn't have a lot of NASCAR experience racing in, not even trucks, but very little experience in ARCA cars, very little experience in late models, very little experience in racing in general. And we got to see how basically how a normal person who just really loves racing would do at this type of setting. Now, I think it's person dependent. I think if you were to ask most people as far as a track to pick for your first track to race at in a high level NASCAR series, I don't think people would have Rockingham at the top of their list as far as tracks they'd want to start out at. But it was a highly ballsy move for him. I don't know if it was his pick to pick Rockingham or if it was RCR's pick as far as like, hey, this is the time when we can allot you to have the car, and this is just when we have the contract set up or whatever. But picking, like I said, picking Rockingham is a hell of a move. My overall thoughts on his race, though, if you watch the O'Reilly Series race, you obviously saw there was a couple of times that he was in the middle of some stuff. He had a couple of moments where, like he mentioned in his post-race interview, where he went 3 wide right off the rip, 3 laps in, and spun himself out going through 1 and 2, saving it onto the apron, but obviously losing a ton of time and really putting himself behind the 8 ball there. His qualifying one, speaking of before that, his qualifying run really put him behind the 8 ball, obviously. If you go online, there's a clip of, that Cletus posted, either him or somebody else posted, of him in the RCR hauler after his qualifying run, and the guys in there are giving him shit because of the fact that he literally ran slower in qualifying than he did in practice. That's never a good thing. It's never a good thing when you're out there running so slow and so carefully that you're literally slower in qualifying than you are in practice. Now, I understand first time for everything, and being in, unclear waters, whatever the term is, like, uncharted waters, that's what I meant to say. It can be somewhat daunting, somewhat intimidating, and so you really just don't want to embarrass yourself. That was something that was really discussed a lot this week, and I'll get more into that later. But obviously the slow qualifying run from him wasn't the greatest start. Boy, oh boy, our peoples and myself and a lot of other people, even within NASCAR, their expectations of him were so low because it's like, hey, he didn't crash in qualifying. That's a good thing. That's not like qualifying where it's supposed to be easy. There's no one else on track. There's not even, like, in practice, you got other guys on track that you have to somewhat be around, and, etiquette as far as getting out of somebody's way, or like what line to pick and all that other stuff. When you're on qualifying, there's no one else out there. It's as easy as it gets. You got the track to yourself. You go as hard as you can. And for him to be as slow as he was, slower than his practice times, that was somewhat funny, but also somewhat concerning going into the race on Saturday. But the race itself on Saturday, like I said, he had the early spin, didn't hit the wall, saved it very well, kept his car clean throughout the entire race. There was a moment, again, in turn 1 that he wasn't involved in, that he almost ARCA-braked himself into, that he very, very slightly got by only just a scratch. He only got a scratch on the car, avoiding, I believe it was the 55, who, I can look really quick who that was, of Joey Gase. I believe it was Joey Gase. No, it was, sorry. Joey Gase was on 35. I'm looking at the results. It was Blake Lothian. Lothian? If I butchered your name, I'm sorry, bro. You got a weird last name. But he barely avoided him. Just barely got a scratch on the 55 that was shown, like on the left front there. So, I mean, a skin in the teeth there of almost ARCA braking and it making it really looking bad. There was a moment there, right there. I think that was the moment where it could have been very, very bad. And it would have been a huge meme of like, oh, he ARCA braked him. How embarrassing. Just completely didn't even stop and all that other shit that could have been said. But he got by somewhat clean there just by a scratch. He was obviously slow. I don't think anybody expected him to be... I find it odd that he thinks he can run top 20 if he were to get more experience or get better or whatever. I mean, I guess he's in good enough equipment that it should be top 10 equipment, all things considered, in the O'Reilly series. But at the end of the day, I mean, it'd take years to me. It would take years for him to be running top 20 at any place besides a super speedway. And then obviously there was a couple of incidents towards the end. He had one with his teammate, technically a teammate, Austin Hill, which I don't really know what happened. I don't know if it was Austin just misjudged it or if Cletus just made a mistake or whatever the issue was. But going into turn 1, it seemed like it was treacherous for him. Going into turn 1, he got rear-ended a bit by Austin. And again, same thing, sideways, sliding onto the apron and had to save it onto the apron. But Cletus did walk away with a clean car, though. There were some other people in the race that did not do that. There's some other people that lost control into turn 1. The greatest announcer jinx that ever happened with Jeremy Clemens, thanks to Adam Alexander, who literally called out, hey, Jeremy's doing great. And then literally the next corner, he goes in and just completely loses it and spins out. Other people had some incidents as well. Sam Mayer had an engine incident, so that didn't really count. But there are some other guys who, again, Austin Green had a moment where he really got out of shape going into, I think, turn 3 and just completely slid four-wheel slide right through the corner and about took out a lot of people. I think all this to say, listen, the expectations, like I mentioned earlier, are extremely low for him because of the fact that he has so little experience. He has only not even a handful of races in ARCA. He has one race in truck, which ended very prematurely with him spinning at Daytona. And then there's obviously this. The test at Rockingham, if I remember correctly, he had a moment where he got into the wall pretty good. And as far as times wise, I never looked at it, nor I didn't see it around. Maybe it was around and I missed it. I apologize if I did, but I think that all things considered, how it could have gone, it could have been so much worse and so much more embarrassing for him that I'd chalk this up to a good thing, a victory for him. It is also a good thing for the O'Reilly series. And as far as promoting the actual talent that the drivers in not only the O'Reilly series, but the Cup series, it promotes the actual talent that these drivers have and how good they really are. Because there's always that stigma around NASCAR of, hey, it's just a bunch of guys that hop in the car and just turn left. There's nothing else to it. There's no skill to it. It's really easy. Well, here's an example that it's not easy. That not anybody can just get in the fucking car and go out there, and if you have good enough equipment, you can finish top 15 or top 10 or whatever. It's a nice demonstration that it does really take good talent. Now, again, there are also examples of people. There's always going to be examples in NASCAR. This is a topic I think I discussed either last week or the week before about, nepotism and, family members getting opportunities over other people because of, either their relations to people within the team or, friendships or sponsors that they have backing them or whatever. And there is that thing. And Cletus is a perfect example. There are plenty of talented drivers in the Truck Series and ARCA Series who are probably more talented than Cletus as far as his actual driving ability, obviously, that were passed over probably 1,000 times before they would ever get an opportunity to drive for RCR. Whereas Cletus, because he's got 1 million some subscribers on YouTube and he's somewhat popular in the motorsports community and the car community, he gets an opportunity because of the fact that he's able to be attractive to sponsors. He's much more of a name within not just racing, but much more a name in general as far as more people in the world know who he is. I have people in my work who know a lot more and watch a lot more of Cletus's stuff than anything to do with any motorsport people. And I have people that were interested in NASCAR because they heard and saw that Cletus was going to go race in a NASCAR race. This was back around Daytona. And they were like, I'm going to watch the Daytona truck race in it now because Cletus is in the race. And I want to see how he does. And so it's a good thing because it attracts more people to the sport, attracts more eyes to watching these lower series races that maybe people would pass over and not even give a chance because even if they were going to watch NASCAR, they're not going to watch the O'Reilly series. It doesn't matter. A casual person who's not even a racing fan in general doesn't know and understand that the O'Reilly series is better racing product to watch than the Cup series. They just think the Cup series is the pinnacle of NASCAR, and so therefore it's the thing to watch. They're not going to ever give the O'Reilly series an opportunity or the Truck series an opportunity because of that simple fact. And so now you have people, casuals that are not even NASCAR fans, willing to watch those races now, which is never a bad thing. He didn't wreck anybody. My main concern with him being in the O'Reilly Series race was, like I had the example of, say, a guy like Sammy Smith, or maybe before this weekend, a William Sawalich, or a Jeremy Clements, for an example, or a Kyle, or not a Kyle, but a Ryan Sieg, or, one of these guys who you would expect to be just outside of the top 12 to go into the chase and try to compete for a championship. My fear was that he was going to cause a wreck that was going to inevitably hurt one of these guys, one of these week-to-week guys who you would consider to be true chase contenders, and take him out of the race, for example. That was my real fear as far as him being a part of the O'Reilly series. And he didn't. As far as I know, what I found odd was, yes, they kept checking in on him, especially more so in the beginning part of the race, but that second half of the race, they really didn't talk much about Cletus at all. They were much more focused on the leaders, much more focused on the top 10 and top 5, as they should have been. But I was just more so surprised because you know how NASCAR is, and as far as being desperate, as far as putting anybody who has a name of any kind on TV as much as they can so they can keep people around and keep people interested. It's the reason why every time the 2311 wins, they have a camera. It's like the NFL with Taylor Swift. They have a camera on Michael Jordan. The second that a 2311 car is doing anything, the minute they have a chance to put Michael Jordan on TV, they're going to fucking do it. Every time that he's at the track, they're going to put him on TV, and they're going to make sure that people see that he's at the track and he's a NASCAR fan, to somewhat try to attract any Michael Jordan fans out there that aren't NASCAR fans to be interested. So I was surprised that they didn't really have him on TV as much as they did in the second half of the O'Reilly race. But, let's be honest. The guy's, what was he, 4 laps down, 5 laps down by the end of it. Finished 32nd, I believe. I have the results in front of me. I can just look. He finished 32nd. Started 35th, so it's technically a positive move forward. And if you take the Kyle Sieg out and the Sam Mayer out, he technically gained 1 spot. He beat, as far as the guys that he beat Austin Green, who wrecked towards the end of the race, like I said. He beat Patrick Staropoli in the 48 car. He beat Dawson Cram, and he beat Josh Bilicki. The other guys, Kyle Sieg and Sam Mayer, like I said, they both had issues. Kyle Sieg had, an electrical issue, and Sam Mayer, obviously, he had his engine issue somewhat earlier in the race. I guess I'm saying all this to try to sum up Cletus's debut in the O'Reilly series. Is it the worst thing that's ever happened? Is it the worst thing that NASCAR has ever allowed? No, it's not. This is not the worst decision that NASCAR has ever made as far as detrimental things to the sport's image. They have had so many different rule changes and so many different stupid point systems and so many different bad decisions on bad decisions over the 20-some years that I've been a fan and can coherently remember, that this is just it's a blip on the radar. It's nothing. The NASCAR diehard fans and the people involved in the sport will be all up in arms and say, it's ridiculous that we're allowing somebody like this to be competing at such a high level. It's detrimental to the sport because it hinders the image of the sport in the sense that we're just out here allowing anybody to race. I get that to a degree. It does take away some bit of, as far as like truly earning your way and the specialty of being able to race in a certain series. And the O'Reilly series, it's the next one to Cup, and there's a lot of guys that race in the O'Reilly series right now that I think people would say they'd have no issue if they were Cup guys. They'd say, hey, they're good enough to race in Cup. So I say all this again to say there have been so many worse things that have happened in NASCAR. There have been so many worse decisions made as far as, like I said, rules and stuff like that. This is not the worst thing that has ever happened. It won't be the worst thing that's going to happen. And allowing Cletus to race in the O'Reilly series, and this is as high as he's going to go. He's already gone on record and saying, look, this is already a lot for me. I can barely handle this as it is. He has no desire to want to race in the Cup Series, which is fine. There's no issue with that. As a matter of fact, I believe that that's probably the best choice. He's racing already in the best series that NASCAR has to offer. I don't think he wants to. Who would want to race the Cup cars compared to the O'Reilly cars? So I don't think it's the worst thing on the planet. If and when he does race at Talladega in a couple weeks, and something similar that happened at Daytona with the trucks happens at Talladega, where gets light coming off of either turn 2 or turn 4, makes a bad decision, is a little bit too aggressive early, and tries to fill a hole that isn't there, and causes the big one, because this is where, at Talladega is where it could really be detrimental. Rockingham, you get spread out at a point, you spin out, maybe you collect 1 or 2 guys if you're spread out enough. It's not the end of the world, and maybe you get lucky and you take out a bunch of guys that, are lower end guys and would be competing for the chase. Talladega is a different animal. You get to the middle or the top 3/4 of the field, or the top 1/4 of the field, I should say, the top quarter of the field. You get that high up in the field, you're running top 10, top 7, top 5, and you make a mistake and you end up causing the big one. Then they're gonna then people are gonna want your head on a pike. Like, then people are gonna want you to. They're gonna want your head, and they're gonna want you gone, and not allowed in the O'Reilly Series for a long time. My biggest thing, like I said, is as far as him being in the O'Reilly Series, I think it's okay. I think it really is okay. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think he'll be all right. He's not going to do this very often. This is not a weekly occurrence. He's part-time at best, and who knows? Maybe he'll run at Talladega, and it'll be out of his system, and he'll be like, you know what? I've learned that the O'Reilly cars are just too much for me. He himself is saying, I need to take a step back, and I need to go back and race the ARCA Series, which, by the way, I know it's ARCA East, and it's the ARCA Series, and boy, oh boy, there's not too many competitive ARCA cars, but he finished 4th. He's a top 5 finish out of how many cars? 22? Some guys crash. Some guys have mechanical failures. At the end of the day, yeah, you look at the list of guys that showed up. Look, he beat Max Reaves in the 18. Max Reaves, who's a Joe Gibbs racing car. He beat out Max Reaves. Now, whatever the reason was for that. By the way, I didn't watch the ARCA race. I wasn't home, and I couldn't catch it. So, unfortunately, I didn't get to see it. And I don't know why Max Reaves finished 8th. But, Max Reaves is supposed to be, if not the top guy in ARCA, because he's a Joe Gibbs racing car, one of the top people. And, I mean, he's beaten out a Joe Gibbs racing car. So it's not easy to beat out a Joe Gibbs racing car in general. So people are so defensive as far as being fans, and there's certain people that are diehard fans that are just true purists and can only accept, you need to earn it and blah, blah, blah. It's like, number one, there's so many fucking guys who get to the O'Reilly Series and the Cup Series and the Truck Series and even the ARCA Series who don't fucking earn it. There's so many people that get opportunities that don't, quote, earn it. That get streamed through the Truck Series, O'Reilly Series, and into the Cup Series because of a sponsor that's so dedicated to them and is willing to throw any sort of money at them to get them high up in the NASCAR series, and they're a huge backer, and money's no object, and so therefore a team will be willing to hire them. Or better yet, there's the countless history of nepotism as far as kids or family members or friends getting opportunities in certain teams or certain rides because, again, of who they're related to, or this is so-and-so's son, or this is so-and-so's daughter, or this is so-and-so's friend. Like, there's so much of that already in NASCAR in general, that allowing some guy who isn't like, it's not like he has no interest or no experience in racing and he's just popular. You know, it's not like it's Robert Downey Jr. or Tom Brady or name and like LeBron James. It's not like they're actually taking Michael Jordan for real and putting him in a NASCAR Cup car or a NASCAR O'Reilly car and saying, here you go. You got a bunch of money and you're willing to spend it on a NASCAR team, so therefore you get to drive an O'Reilly car. We're just going to allow you in. It's not like somebody who has no experience in racing and no experience in interests in cars or, you know, anything like that. It's somebody who, you know, granted it's backyard stuff and, you know, whatever, but he has a good interest in racing. He's raced a lot in local stuff, small stuff. It's not like he's completely inexperienced in that regard. So this is the state your sport is in. I think that that's something else that all these diehard NASCAR fans need to understand, is like, this is the state your sport's in. That the popularity and the amount of money that is being put into the sport is fallen off so much and is so low that you're having to resort to YouTubers who have any sort of notoriety or attention or fans behind them. You're so desperate for that you're just willing to take it, and you're willing to give it any sort of opportunity that it wants. Cletus wants to race the O'Reilly Series. Well, sure, yeah, he hit the wall and wasn't so fast in his test, but give him the shot, because we need the eyes, we need the viewership, we need the money. We need the people out there. We need the guys. We need the sponsors to be on our television screens. We need the money. We're not in any sort of position to reject money of any kind, or reject ratings of any kind, or reject fans, or opportunities to get more fans, or whatever. We're not in any position to object to that. So we have to resort to taking those types of people. I understand the diehard fans would also be like, well, it doesn't make any sense that you know, they're not going to just take any sort of Joe Schmo and put him on the New England Patriots or any UFL team, or, you know, any sort of college, or I shouldn't even say college, but any sort of AAA baseball team, or, you know, whatever. I mean, number one, that has happened. I mean, there's been multi-sport athletes who have gone from one sport to another, and they've earned their way on. And Cletus, again, whether you want to say he hasn't earned his way that high yet or not, I mean, NASCAR is different. He has raced ARCA Series races. He has had some experience in the truck race, beside, you know, it being what, like 6 laps at a super speedway. At the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. And us as a sport, we need the eyes, we need the attention, we need the money, we need everything that comes with this. And to try to reject it out of some moral superiority, as though our standards are so high, when again, there are the examples of your grandson wants to race. Well, here's a car, buddy. You can race as long as you want, and you can win as much as you want, because you're going to get the best equipment. And that goes for a lot of people. There's so many people that have kids in the NASCAR system that get opportunities that maybe they don't deserve, or maybe they haven't earned yet. I mean, it's happened as early as 13, 12. Guys get signed. Look at Keelan Harvick. Is there any sort of inclination that he's going to turn into like the next superstar in NASCAR, to where it makes sense that Toyota would sign him at the age that he's at? No. He gets signed because he's Kevin Harvick's son. Nobody else Nobody else that Keelan races with that's around his age is being considered by Toyota to be signed as a Toyota development driver. Even though they may go out and beat Keelan on a consistent basis, they don't give a fuck. Keelan's last name is Harvick, and so therefore that's why he gets the opportunity. Austin Dillon wasn't put into the RCR cars because of happenstance or pure irony. He was put in those cars because my granddad owns a NASCAR Cup team. And he's going to put me in all of his shit. Same thing with Ty. Same thing with Chase. Do you think Chase really got the opportunities he deserved? Chase Elliott, that is. Do you really think he got the opportunities that he got because he really earned them? He turned out to be a good race car driver, yes, but I'm talking about early on when he was a young kid getting the opportunities that he got. Rick Hendrick putting him in the cars that he did. Was it a foregone conclusion that, Chase was going to be a NASCAR champion? Absolutely not. There was no inclinations as a young kid that, he's really talented. He's a true prodigy. Same thing with so many other people. Look at Austin Cindric. He's another guy. Got the opportunity because his dad's the president at Penske. His dad's either is or was, I think he was now. He was the president of the Penske IndyCar team. Now, I don't believe Tim Cindric's there anymore. I think he either left or he got put in a different position or something. But Austin got that opportunity being in the Penske team and being in Penske cars because of who his dad was. His dad got him those opportunities. No, he really earned them. Has Austin really earned his ride over the last how many years? What, one or two wins in the X amount of years he's been in the 2 car, and what, an average finish of like probably 15th to 18th at best? In a team that is winning championships and has, past champions before Austin got there and is expected to be competing for championships, or, before, as far as the playoff system, expected to be in the round of 8 or the final 4 almost every year, and he can barely even make the playoffs. Most times not even make the playoffs. So bash on it all you want, but it's selective criticism to criticize Cletus and say that it's unfair that he gets this opportunity, or it's unfair that he gets to be in that ride. It's selective criticism, because where's the criticism for the countless other people who have had similar opportunities like him, but they aren't criticized because they're a part of the NASCAR family, quote unquote. So, anyways, we'll probably get to see Cletus again at Talladega. I highly doubt NASCAR is going to. I don't think he did anything too egregious at Rockingham that would hinder him from being able to race to Talladega. I know I heard Fat Ass that sits in the spotter stand say something on his podcast about how they'll probably make him race Kansas. It's like he spun out a few times. There's nothing that anybody else didn't do that whole race. Jeremy Clements spun out randomly in turns 1 and 2, all by himself. No one turned him. No, nothing. He's spun out all by himself. Should he have his ability to race next week at Bristol be in question because he spun out all by himself? What about the countless other people that are or were a part of NASCAR that constantly would self-spin because they just either lost the car or didn't have the talent or whatever, and made an ass out of himself, and yet the criticism isn't there for them, but the criticism is there for somebody like Cletus, because at the end of the day, he is still an outsider. He's not a part of the, NASCAR family. So, That being said, let's talk about the weekend. Like I said, I didn't watch the ARCA race. I am kind of getting to this point with the ARCA series. I don't want to sit here and be like, I don't care, or I'm not going to talk about it, or whatever. But I just don't have a whole lot of interest in the ARCA series, and I don't believe a lot of other people do either. This is another race where I don't remember if ARCA's ran between the weekend at Phoenix to now. They possibly have, but I haven't seen another ARCA race in between Phoenix and now. So I would just assume that they haven't ran. But look, the last ARCA race that I saw, one guy led, I think, all but 2 laps in the race. Dominated the race. And we had the exact same thing this past weekend at ARCA, or at Rockingham with ARCA. This time only worse because Tristan McGee, who ended up winning in the 77 car, he led every single lap. He led all 125 laps. And I believe it was Carson Brown who finished second in this race, was the one who led all but 2 laps at Phoenix some odd weeks ago. It is, I mean, the best way I can put it is ARCA really is just the series that exists. It's a step below trucks, and it is a large fall off of the trucks. I don't really know. Like, I'm not sitting here being like the ARCA series is going to die. But look, as far as like just letting anybody in, I mean, that's where the ARCA, that's where ARCA comes into play. As far as just letting anybody in. I look at this list of people and I don't know anybody besides, of course, Cletus. I've heard of Isaac Kitzmiller. And obviously, like I said, the 2 Mark Webb cars of Carson Brown and Tristan McKee, like they've seemingly been fast. I don't know if, I mean, I guess I would assume that they would be the 2 guys that possibly could see down the line getting a Truck Series ride or a O'Reilly Series ride in some smaller team. I mean, even Max Reaves, like, there's been some names that have raced that 18 car in the ARCA series that has been like, boy, oh boy, I'm not sure if this guy will work out. I think there's a chance that out of all the people that have ran through this 18 car in the ARCA series that have then, obviously the next step is usually they go on to race either in like a truck or in that O'Reilly series for Joe Gibbs. I think Max Reaves is the one that just won't work. I want to see if I can pull this up. There was, I think, a Max Reaves interview that people were dogging on him for that I wanted to hear. I'm going to see if I can pull it up. I apologize now, but he wasn't happy with somebody. I am so sorry about the dead air here. But I'm going to try to see if I can find this interview here. Not seemingly find it on YouTube. Here, I'll try on X. But as far as like the people, like I said, that have ran through that ARCA car for Joe Gibbs Racing, I mean, there's like even Sammy Smith for a bit there was like, okay, it seems like he's a little bit lower on the talent totem pole of guys who've raced that 18 car in the past. And so therefore, like, maybe he's the one that doesn't really work. But then even, like I said, like even he ended up I mean, work is a relative term. Some people will say, like, well, I don't know if he's really working or not, but he's still getting an opportunity to, race in the 8 car for Junior Motorsports, so he obviously must be doing something right. I found this Max Reaves interview. Let's go ahead and play this because I haven't played anything yet. But I actually didn't hear this. Let's listen to Max Reeves' interview after an ARCA East race at Hickory, where he's getting, I guess, booed by the crowd. I've seen it pop up in my feed, but I haven't actually listened to this interview, so I have no idea what he says here. But let's give Max Reeves a chance here.
Yeah, we were the best by far tonight, and props to Tristan McKee and all them at PRG. They were good too, but they're nothing on us. The 9, I don't know what the plan was, but, I think he was trying to take me and the 77 out, but if you can't beat them, you got to wreck them, so that's, this reminds me of that one interview with Kyle Busch, and he cried at the haters, but there's a reason I'm in that car and not one of these other ones. So, I'm just thankful to all my guys for everything, and I love all these haters. That's my favorite part of racing, and I'm just thankful to be here.
Okay, that was bad. Oh my God, that was bad. There's a part of me almost wants to dissect that because that's so bad. Good God. Listen, he said there's a reason why he's in that car and not one of the other ones. First off, you know what? Let's re-listen to this again. I'm going to literally dissect this 39-second clip. Let's listen to what Max says again. I'm going to pause here at certain times.
Yeah, we were the best by far tonight, and props to Tristan McKee and all them at PRG. They were good too, but they're nothing on us,
They're nothing on us. Okay, so that, by the way, so I guess they have raced in between then and now. I'm going to look at these ARCA East results here. I want to see actually how many laps he really led at Hickory. I want to actually see how many laps did he really lead. Okay, so, okay. I'll give him credit. He led 186 laps at Hickory. So that's fair. Again, I don't know what happened at the end of the race. But something obviously with Landon Huffman, because Landon's in the 9, and he did mention Landon. So let's let Max keep going on. So he's much better than the winner of the race at the end there. Let's see what he has to say.
The 9, I don't know what the plan was, but I think he was trying to take me and the 77 out, but if you can't beat them, you got to wreck them, so that's.
Now, I want to see the supposed wreck attempt from Landon. Now, I don't know Landon very well. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm his biggest fan. I only know him because of his association with Mooncar and the fact that I know he's if it's the same Landon Huffman I'm thinking of, I'm pretty sure he's mostly known for being a late model driver. Let's go ahead and find this wreck attempt, supposedly. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it's, I got the full race on here. Okay, cool. So I can just go back and watch. That part right there of him just being like, maybe he did really wreck him. I'm obviously going to look here. We're doing this live on the show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to try to find the supposed wreck attempt. See if I can find it here. Where is the 9? It must have already happened here at this point. Is he how far back? Yep, it already happened here. So it looks like a basic. I'm watching this right now. So honestly, looks like, okay, Okay, this is a long, there's a lot of racing here. So 9, Landon gets into Reaves a bit here, bumps him up the track. This looks like a regular door. Allows McKee to get to the inside of him here. McKee does the same thing to Landon, which again, it's the same move. So Max is now back to the front. Then he just bumps him. This is a basic just attempt at a bump and run. He gets to second because of the bump. Then he really bumps Max. Moves him up the track. They're back to 3 wide. Back to 2 wide now as McKee goes on the inside of the 9. McKee's back out front now, coming off of 4. He's going to dive back to the inside. Okay, maybe I should show this instead of just explaining it. I'm going to show this. I don't know why I'm sitting here being like, let's explain it. I'm just going to show what is going on here. So, hide this, and let's just show this. All right, let's go ahead and watch this. I'm going to keep the sound off because, probably annoying commentary. So that looks like, a basic door. It's somewhat clean. They're 3 here. Back to 2 wide here with the 9 on the inside. That, again, looks like a door. Just trying to be aggressive to try to move him up the track. His ARCA cars are probably pretty similar, and it's probably hard to pass here at Hickory. So there's another move. It almost kind of looks like Max got into him a bit there. He bumps him again. That one got that's an attempt at a bump and run, I think. Or to try to get him out of shape. But didn't really work. That's a big fucking push into turn 1. That one, Max really had to save it. So this is just basically they're all just trading the same position. And I mean, this seems like it's tough here off the rip. I mean, they're obviously going to go for it. Really wanted to get to his inside. That one, I think Max kind of helped him on. No, I take that back. Max didn't help him there. It just looks like he really wanted to, he saw an opportunity to dive to the inside. He didn't want to lose it. And, I mean, that is really, listen, they're all 3 of them are being very aggressive. It is only 12 to go at this point. I mean, they were inside of 15 to go. And I think they're all just trying to get the advantage because probably having the lead. Okay, that is not. That is not the Landon Huffman I was thinking of. This is a bald dude who I've never seen in my life. What the fuck is that? I don't know if he's bald or not, but he looks bald because I can't really see his hair. Just some random fucking dude I've never seen before in my life. All right, this is not the Landon I was thinking of. I was thinking of Landon Huffman, who has a lot more hair and is friends with Travis from Mooncar. That's the Landon I was thinking. I was like, oh, maybe Landon's racing some ARCA cars, next to his super late model stuff or late model stuff, whatever. Nope. It's not the same Landon Huffman. Anyways, okay, so let's so now that we saw it, let's re-listen to what Max had to say there about that last wreck with the 9.
The 9, I don't know what the plan was, but I think he was trying to take me and the 77 out, but if you can't beat them, you got to wreck them, so
I don't think he was trying to wreck Max. I mean, he's ahead of Max at this point. And he's trying to get to the inside of the 77 to just stay side by side with him, either in an attempt to try to do the same door shove up the track and use the, the 8 wheels turns better than 4 kind of deal. I don't think they had no attempt to really wreck Max. I mean, there was one point where I would say, hey, he hit him pretty hard going into the corner and got Max really sideways, but they were all fucking throwing each other around. No one was innocent in that regard. But let's continue, Max.
If you can't beat them, you got to wreck them, so that's,
No. So people are booing because people were thoroughly enjoyed by that, I assume. It's actually hard racing and it's entertaining to watch. So that's my assumption as far as why people are booing. The other thing, too, is like, dude, no one wants to hear, after they just saw some amazing racing, you bad-mouthing the guy who's actually racing hard and trying to race for a win, you know? So let's hear how Max responds to the crowd here.
This reminds me of that one interview with Kyle Busch, and he cried at the haters, you know? But there's a reason I'm in that car and not one of these other ones. So, you know, I'm just thankful to all my guys.
See, number one, he's made himself look like an asshat because, all right, I didn't have, you know, it's funny. I didn't have an asshat of the week this week because no one really did anything too egregious to me. Max Reaves, congratulations. You are this week's asshat of the week here on Coop Radio. Number one, comparing yourself to Kyle Busch when you are an ARCA Series driver is like red flag. Like red flag city as far as like, this guy ain't gonna work. If he's already so full of himself and so cocky that he's only made it to ARCA. I'm pretty sure he's raced maybe a handful of truck races at most if he has. But as far as I know, he's raced strictly ARCA most of the time. And he's already sitting out there being like, yeah, this reminds me of the time when Kyle Busch was getting booed. It's like, dude, you think you're Kyle Busch? You think you're anything close to that? You think you're the guy who's winning 200 some races in his career across the 3 major series and is a multi-time NASCAR Cup champion and 60 some wins in the Cup Series, future Hall of Famer? Like, what the fuck is that, dude? Like, maybe be somewhat tepid or somewhat humble until you at least get past ARCA. I mean, everyone and their mother is like, ARCA's the shits as far as multiple competitive cars, really trying to find who's truly talented, you know, like, it's the shits. So to sit there and be like, yeah, I'm basically Kyle Busch. This reminds me of when Kyle Busch was standing right where I'm standing right now, and all the crowd's booing me for the same reason. Because they just hate me because I'm like Kyle Busch. It's like, no, dude. No, it ain't. It ain't even close to the same thing.
For everything, and I love all these haters. That's my favorite part of racing, and I'm just thankful to be here.
And that last part where he's like, oh yeah, I love the haters. I'm sure you do. I'm sure everybody really loves the haters. Congratulations, Max. You are this week's asshat of the week. Holy shit. I guess I'll go ahead and say it. Yeah, now I'm pretty confident that Max ain't gonna work out. I'll see if me being one of his haters, if he can prove me wrong. I highly doubt that. And yeah, by the way, Max, the reason why you're in that 18 car has nothing to do with your fucking talent. It has everything to do with whatever sponsor you have, that cookout sponsor you have in your chest. Yeah, that's why you're in the 18 car. Nothing to do with your fucking talent. Trust me on that. Well, that was the ARCA race. I didn't really have much else to talk about with the ARCA race. Truck Series race, I did catch a good amount of. Look, I will say this. Corey Heim being the now through 5 races, he has missed 2, and Corey has already won, I believe, 2 races at this point of the 3 that he's been involved in. Yes, that is correct. He's won 2 of the 3 he was involved in. He won at Darlington a few weeks ago. Was it a few weeks ago or maybe last? No, it was a few weeks ago. And then this past weekend at Rockingham. In dominant fashion, by the way, leading, 178 laps? The next highest lap leader was Tanner Gray, who led 17. Besides that, Caden Honeycutt only got to lead 1, and Grant Enfinger led 4, which I assumed. I didn't even see Grant lead. I assumed that was during a pit cycle. Listen, the fact that there is a rule as of right now that Corey Heim is the point leader, and he didn't race in the 2 races, so as of right now, from what I understand, he's not eligible to be a part of the chase. I believe it falls under the category of, look, he's not a full-time truck guy. He's one of these part-time people. He races Cup. And so I think people consider him almost like a Cup guy. I don't know what the official ruling is off the top of my head. And no, I don't need somebody here to try to tell me, because it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. That's a nice shout out to one of my friends there. You need someone on there to tell you, about certain stuff you don't know. This is why you need somebody on here. No one's listening to me for my insight or knowing all the rules to everything. Anyways, my point in this is, it is, I think, a bit unfair to Corey to not be eligible for the Truck Series Championship. Now, I don't know how many more races he's racing in truck. I don't know if he's running the rest of the races for the rest of the season, or if he's still on a part-time schedule as far as missing some here and there. But to me, good God, fucking stupid thing. To me, I don't categorize Corey as like a Cup guy or an O'Reilly guy. He's kind of just like this jack of all trades, master of none, stuck in purgatory kind of driver, where he's doesn't have a home. As far as like, yes, he's an O'Reilly guy, or yes, he's a Cup guy, or yes, he's a truck guy. He's kind of stuck in this no man's land of not having a consistent ride, and he's just stuck going anywhere he can to try to fill a season. It's sad to me that he doesn't have a ride, especially considering the fact that now in the Truck Series, he's run 2 of the 3 races he's been in and is the current points leader. So you're telling me the guy who's leading the point standings right now isn't eligible to compete for the championship? To me, it's like, I think exceptions need to be made in this certain circumstance. And somebody who like Corey, who doesn't have a home, as far as like, yeah, he's a Cup guy, or yeah, he's an O'Reilly guy, or yeah, he's a truck guy. He's just trying to find whatever opportunity he can. He's found the best opportunity he can here, as far as seemingly getting opportunities still with Tricon and the Truck Series. But like, to me, I think it would feel weird if by the time we got to the end of the Truck Series season and Corey was still leading the point standings, and then you have to go and tell the fans, oh yeah, by the way, that guy who's leading in the point standings right now, he's not in the chase. So that guy who's been winning all these races, because by the way, this isn't going to be the last race he wins this season in the Truck Series. He's probably going to at least win a few more. At least. So with that being said, when you have a guy like that who's going to probably win a lot more races, and then you're going to go into the chase and you're going to say, yeah, that guy he's not in the chase. He's not eligible to be in the chase. So Corey Heim isn't competing for the championship. To me, it's like that's a nice little black mark on whoever wins the championship this year. Like, okay, congratulations, Caden Honeycutt, who will probably win the championship in place of him. You didn't win all these races, and you were by far the second best guy all season, but you get to be the champion because your teammate isn't eligible to win the championship. To me, that's just dumb. That's just really dumb. I hope that that's rectified at some point during the season and they grant a waiver of some kind and allow him to be in the championship race if it comes time to that, because it would just feel ridiculous to have the guy who's been the best all season not even allowed to compete for the Truck Series championship. But that being said, as far as the Rockingham race, I enjoyed it. A lot of people have controversy about the end of the race. Hang on a second here. I got to take a drink. A lot of controversy about the end of the race. Should the 15 have moved? Was the 15 the right to be in the spot that he was in? Tanner Gray didn't really... he picked a lane. And based off the lane that he picked, he ultimately made an impact on the end of the race. It's also kind of odd because it's like a teammate. And you'd expect your teammate to really get out of the way in those circumstances. Look, I know that they were talking on DBC also of like different spotters, so that makes an impact. I don't think that really makes an impact. It shouldn't, to me. Listen, if you're racing every week and you got your two teammates behind you, I don't care who you are in the spotter stand. I don't care if you're some fucking stranger. If I have my two teammates battling behind me, catching me quickly, racing for the win on the last lap, and I'm multiple laps down, I want the spotter to inform me, hey, your teammates are racing for the win behind you. They're going to catch you here on the last lap. I would suggest moving out of the way or getting down on the apron or getting out, just something. I would suggest moving over for them and allowing them to really actually race for the win without you being in the way. I don't care who's in the spotter stand. I want them to inform me of that. So I feel like that's kind of a cop-out answer to be like, well, it's not the same spotter that they have every week. And so that's why he probably was, walking on eggshells and didn't want to tell Tanner to get out of the way. It's like that's a lame-ass excuse to me. Your job is a spot. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your name is. Like I said, especially those circumstances, if it's somebody else on a different team, who fucking cares? Like if it was instead Lane Riggs and Stuart Friesen who finished third and fourth, if it was those two racing for the win at the end, then if I'm Tanner Gray, then yeah, who fucking cares? I'll just race for my spot. I'll just hold my line and they can race around me and figure it out. But when it's two teammates, I would kind of hope that, all right, now I really don't want to get involved in teammate stuff. I'll really back out and get out of their way. So yeah, it did kind of suck that the ending of the race was screwed up because of that. The only thing I would say though is, he held his line. He didn't technically do anything wrong. And at the end of the day, I still feel like the best guy won. Corey led 178 laps for a reason. He was the best car. He was the best truck all day. He was the fastest truck all day. It wasn't relatively close most of the time. Yeah, if you're Caden, you're hurting because that was your chance to win your first Truck Series win. I guarantee you that Caden Honeycutt will win a race this year. There will be a week where probably Corey doesn't show up and doesn't race in the one. And then Caden will have the best truck out there, be the fastest, and will win. I don't think it would be it would be a huge mark on Caden if you were to go out there with literally the best truck out there. The 11 has been considered as like the best truck for the last year and some change in the Truck Series. I think most people would still consider it to be the best truck in the Truck Series this year as well. So if he were to go out there and to not win one race all year, that's a giant failure as far as I'm concerned. So I have full confidence that Caden will get a win or two or three this year. I don't think that this was his only shot. It's not some mid-level, low-level truck team that, they got screwed out of a chance to win. No, it's a truck that'll have plenty more opportunities. So The only other thing I wanted to mention about the Truck Series was the official switch from Daniel Dye to Corey Lajoie. Listen, you're not going to hear any argument from me that Corey is not better than Daniel Dye. You're not going to hear any sort of argument against that. If you were to ask me who I would rather be racing my Truck Series truck, trying to compete for wins and championships, I'd take Corey Lajoie over Daniel Dye for sure. Straight up talent wise, I believe Corey is much better. I think that, he a lot of decent runs in the Cup Series. He's had a lot more time in racing and period. I feel like Corey is much more of an asset to Ram than Daniel Dye was. And I know that, sorry to the few Daniel Dye fans out there that don't like to hear that, or even the Corey Lajoie haters out there for some reason. But yeah, like Corey is much, much better than Daniel Dye. So this is a net positive for Kaulig as a whole, and Ram as a whole. That being said, being kicked out of your ride for making, in my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, I don't take Daniel Dye's comments in some random WhatsApp stream so seriously. I mean, he's so obviously joking, and people just take it and they run with it like it's the worst thing that's ever happened on the planet. And this is the unfortunate thing of when you're a NASCAR driver, you are powerless in a lot of ways, because it doesn't matter how good you are, how talented you are. You can do a million good things for the community. You can donate to charities. You can be the nicest guy on the planet. You make one wrong move, one bad thing that you said, one small mishap, and you're done. Look at Kyle Larson. He was all but done. And then he had to get bailed out. If it wasn't for Hendrick, listen, people can say, oh, Kyle Larson would have been just fine. If Kyle didn't go to Hendrick, he would have went to Stewart-Haas. And think about that. Stewart-Haas, look at what they've turned into. Tony Alba, had enough of NASCAR and bailed, sold his share of the team, and got the fuck out of there. Everybody kind of knew and understood that Stewart-Haas wasn't all that great besides Kevin Harvick. I mean, the rest of the cars just kind of fucking existed, and they'd get random wins every now and then, but no consistent good runs. And now look at what they've turned into. They're down to a single car team who's back to a Chevy, and they most of the time don't crack the top 30. And sometimes will crack the top 25 on a good day. So, at the end of the day, all things considered, Larson got extremely, extremely lucky with how things turned out. And Daniel Dye doesn't have the talent that Kyle Larson does. So no one will be willing to take the chance on Daniel Dye in any sort of capacity like that, probably ever again. Do I think that Daniel Dye is done in NASCAR? No. I think some small team will pick him up, and it'll be, oh my God, it's so controversial that they hired Daniel Dye, and fucking people will freak out about it and shit like that. But at the end of the day, he'll never be in a competitive car like that ever again. It would take years upon years upon years of time and people forgetting, and maybe some good runs and whatever sponsor that he'd get to be able to back him. I don't know. Whatever team is willing to take a chance on him. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's it is what it is. Daniel Dye wasn't all that great anyways. I mean, just being totally honest, he was just another guy that was going to fill the field for the Truck Series. And, I think that's another reason why people are willing to wash the hands of him, because he was just kind of a mid-level guy in the Truck Series. And it didn't really feel like he was going to do anything significant as far as competing for wins or running top 5 and top 10 and, having a chance at racing for a chase in any series. I think probably the best spot for him now is ARCA. And, that's not even me making like a joke. Like, that's me just being honest. I think that probably the best spot for him now is going back down to the ARCA series and racing for somebody down there. Somebody down there will hire him, and maybe because it's ARCA that he won't stir up a whole lot of shit. And so therefore people just kind of let him be and forget about him. It's sad that that's the best that's the best outcome for him, is that people will just forget about him and let him be. But it is what it is. So I do think, though, that the Ram team, the Colleague team, getting Corey for the rest of the year is a net positive for sure. As far as, hey, you got a lot better driver. And I don't know, where's Corey sitting in the point standings now? I'm going to take a look at this quick. So, yeah, I don't think he'll be able to compete for the championship. He'd have to go on a fucking tear to make up all these points. He is... So I'm on Racing Reference, 76 to Justin Haley. And then, yeah, so he's about 90, 94, if I'm doing my math correct. Maybe 94, somewhere around 100 points back. Maybe a little bit less than 94. Maybe a little bit more than that. I'm not doing math right now. But his teammate Justin Haley is 10th, and the gap to 10th, which is that last spot in the chase, is a ton. So I don't think he'll be able to make the chase. Like I said, if he were to make the chase, he'd have to go on an absolute fucking tear for the rest of the season and just top 5, top 3, win some races, like be Corey level, or Corey Heim levels of good, to try to make up that gap. Remember, the Truck Series season is shorter. It's only 25 total races. So you don't have a lot of time, don't have a lot of chances to try to make up that ground. And I don't know if he'll be able to. I highly doubt it, in my opinion. On to the main event of the weekend, which was the O'Reilly Series race. I am eating my words once again. I've been talking all this shit about William Sawalich and the Joe Gibbs Racing crew. And then we show up to Rockingham and they make me look like a bunch of chumps. Congrats to a local hometown boy from Eden Prairie, Minnesota. A fellow Minnesotan goes out and wins his first O'Reilly Series race at Rockingham. I got to give a shout out to William. Local Minnesota guy getting a win like that is pretty cool to see. The one thing I will say is he fit right in with the with the Minnesota crew as far as, like, dude, you won your first O'Reilly Series race. You've had struggles for the last year and some change since getting in the 18 car. It hasn't been easy. You haven't been the fastest. You finally showed up at Rockingham, had the best car, or one of the best cars, I should say. Not the best car all day. We'll get to the best car all day later on. But one of the best cars. You go out there, you get the win. He led 80 laps. Like, he led a good... It wasn't like he lucked into this one. And yet, there's no enthusiasm. There's no yelling on the radio. There's no jumping up and down. It's just, good job, guys. Thanks. Like no excitement, no real excitement whatsoever behind him. That disappointed me so much. Like I expected to hear him on the radio, like screaming, being like, "Fuck yeah, guys! Thank God! Like thank God we fucking won the race! Oh my God, it's been such a run!" And there's just nothing. Just like no enthusiasm really at all. Disappointing, William. Be a little bit more excited next time. But congrats to him. Teammate Brandon Jones finished second. I don't know where the fuck that came from. And it must be just like Jones is usually good at Darlington, and I don't know how similar Darlington and Rockingham is, but maybe he raced Rockingham this past weekend similar to Darlington, and that similarity helped him a bit. I don't know. Not the Justin Allgaier show as far as leading a ton of laps. He did lead one, but Justin also finished top 3, and he was up front for most of the race as well. Shout out to Corey Day, though. I have to give him a shout out here. He got in the pole, which when I saw he won the pole for Rockingham, my immediate thought was, oh God, he's figured it out. He's going to go into Rockingham and lead like he kind of did. I'll lead 100 some laps and win. Only problem was I don't know if they missed something on that last run or if everyone else figured something out on that last run. But that 17 car missed it in some way, shape, or form in the last run, and they did not have the speed at all. I think something that they said on the broadcast was Corey kind of had his car set up to be leading the whole race, like to be good out in clean air and not good in dirty air. And it was the first time that he had been in dirty air, and he couldn't find the speed. He just didn't have the same speed that he did for most of the race. I got some people that I'm friends with that are some real Corey Day haters. I'm not the biggest fan of Corey Day myself. I really believe that it's not like he's the next Kyle Larson. I don't think that he's that great, but kind of similar to how the Ty Gibbs thing went, he figured it out right after that Coda shit happened and he had a talking to. After he had some multiple incidents, one with technically a teammate, and was really not making himself look great. He had a nice sit-down interview with Mr. H there. And Mr. H probably gave him a talking to and said, look, kid, we can put anybody in that car. You're here because one guy vouched for you, and you're not backing up his hype around you. And you need to figure it out real quick. Or we'll find somebody else to put in that 17 car. So I don't think he was that harsh. I highly doubt Mr. Hendrick was that harsh, but I would hope that the message was somewhat similar to that of like, look, dude, we can fucking put anybody in that 17 car and then go win races. At least keep the car clean, so please figure it out. But Corey leading 118 laps, he's starting to figure it out. And I think that this is, I don't think people want to hear this, but this is Alex Bowman's worst nightmare. This is Alex Bowman's worst nightmare. Corey Day starting to figure it out and starting to find speed in a NASCAR stock car and leading laps and being fast, regardless of whether or not he has some of the best equipment or not. It's just the fact that he's now all of a sudden he's racing cleaner. Now all of a sudden he's running up front, finishing top 10 most every week. He still finished 10th here, so it's still another top 10. And he's leading laps and at times is looking like the best car. That is Alex Bowman's biggest fear. Because now, maybe it's not this year, but Corey Day might be Alex Bowman's ticking time bomb. I don't think a lot of people believe in him right now because it is so early, and he is so young, and this thing just started really, and he hasn't had a lot of time in the O'Reilly series. But look, would you be that surprised if Hendrick Motorsports said, look, we've given you 8 solid years, Alex, and it's just not working, and we got to move on. And they get a nice, cheaper deal by having to pay Corey Day probably a shit ton less money, and therefore up the profit margin on the team, and on top of that, be investing in a young guy who may or may not turn into something in the future as far as being a high-level talent. I could see it. I could really see it. There's a reason why he's racing for Hendrick Motorsports in the O'Reilly series and not Junior Motorsports. Doesn't matter that the cars are basically made in the same shop. Doesn't matter. If Rick Hendrick really believed in Sammy Smith, or really believed in Carson Quaffle, really believed in Roger Carruth, he'd slap his name on their fucking car. He's slapping his name on Corey Day because either he was convinced that he can be a future star, or he truly believes that he can be a future star. Either way, it doesn't matter. The fact is that he's handpicked, and he's the guy that will inevitably replace somebody in the Cup Series down the line if this kind of leading laps, running up front, almost winning, if this type of runs continue into the future for the rest of the season, and he wins a couple races this year and has a legitimate shot at winning the championship, he's their pick. I don't agree with it. I don't think that Corey Day is all that great. I want to see a much longer, like, I'm talking 2-3 years of running well. And also, by the way, I don't want him racing just the O'Reilly series. Everyone always says the same thing. The O'Reilly cars are nowhere near anything what the Cup cars are. I want to see Corey Day in a Cup car before I'd ever want to see him just take over a Cup car full time. I want to see him running these part-time schedules like the Austin Hills are, or Jesse Love is, or like Ty Gibbs did there for a few before he got into the Cup Series full time. I want to see him running some part-time races. I want to see him do what Connor Zilic did, where he ran a few part-time races. I don't care what tracks they are. I want to see him in a Cup car and see how he's able to handle it before I ever would say, yeah, go ahead and take the 48. Not to mention, like I said, I want to see this longer track record of continued success. Honestly, I'd also, if I were to try to make it happen, go race some trucks. Don't just race O'Reillys. Go race some truck races. Everyone always says this, that if you're talking comparatively to which one's more similar to the Cup car, the trucks are more similar to the Cup car than the O'Reilly car is. That's why Hocevar was able to make the jump that he was able to, because he raced the truck for so long, got in the Cup car, and was like, yeah, it's just a faster version of the truck. And was able to adapt very quickly. Same thing with Zane Smith. That's why the Zane Smith made the jump that he made to the Cup Series, just skipping the O'Reilly series. I'd almost rather see Corey get some time in a truck. See if he can be like Corey Heim is and just go out there and just dominate the field. So the talent is starting to show, and this hype is starting to show up. Now, again, can he continue it is a different question, but the finish of 10th to me does not define how good he was that day. He was a top 3 car for sure, at least. Another guy I want to give a shout out to is Brent Cruz. I don't remember exactly what happened to him, but he ran into some trouble there towards the end and unfortunately went a couple laps down. He himself led 30 laps. It's still so funny to me that, like, Daniel Dye's career is, like, over. And I get it. Like, Daniel Dye was the one that said it. Brent Cruz didn't say anything. He just sat there and laughed. But, like, Like Brent Cruz, funny enough, was the felicitator. That's the term, felicitator to Daniel Dye saying all these things. It was on Cruz's stream. So, goddamn, stupid fantasy baseball stuff going off of my computer here. But shout out to Cruz. The finish again of 26th does not justify how fast he was for most of the day. Another Joe Gibbs racing car that was good. He was running up front. He himself led 30, like I said. Cruz is an interesting one. I want to look at the point standings here because I talked about the Corey Lajoie thing not being able to make the chase. Cruz is now 18, and he's only ran half the races compared to everybody else. He's ran 4, everyone else has ran 8, and they've had, they threw Chase Briscoe in the 19 and Christopher Bell in the 19 for a few races until Cruz turned 18. So Cruz is 18 now. So as far as I know, he's full time for the rest of this season. He's currently 20th in points. So it's not the 32nd or whatever that Corey Lajoie was. He's 20th in points now. Granted, the gap to Taylor Gray is 219 behind Justin Allgaier, and Brent Cruz is 308. So the gap is still pretty big. And also that's Taylor Gray. The guys that are behind Taylor Gray now are Sam Mayer, Ryan Sieg, Brendan Poole. So, besides Sam Mayer, he'll probably he could probably beat consistently Ryan Sieg every week, Brendan Poole, Anthony Alfredo, Jeb Burton, Blaine Perkins, Patrick Staropoli. He'll beat these guys every week. Sam Mayer, on the other hand, is the questionable one, where it's like, okay, you're in Haas Factory Team equipment, which is decent equipment in the O'Reilly series. Besides the engine issues that he had, he would have still finished top 10, maybe top 5 in the race. He would have been just fine. And like I said, that 12th spot now is Taylor Gray. So, and Taylor Gray isn't slow. Like he was, out of all the Joe Gibbs guys, he was the slowest, but he was still, he still finished what, 12th, 11th? I'm looking right now. Oh, he finished 7th. What am I talking about? He finished 7th. But so that's why I'm saying I don't know if Brent can make up that gap. I don't know if he can make that gap up. Because even the other guys that are ahead of him, Raja's going to be more inconsistent. But I don't know if the inconsistency is enough to make up that gap. And then even if Raja bounces out, he still has to beat the combination of either Sam Mayer, Taylor Gray, or his teammate now, William Sawalich, who, remember, I was like, Sawalich is like that odd man out now. With that win, he bumps himself to 11th in the point standings now. So that 12th spot, somebody's going to get left out that has been running decently. And you know what's funny? The reason why this is, because I can name off all these other people here. Hang on. I'm going to name off all these people here that are currently in the top 12 or 13 here, that you would not be surprised that, hey, he makes the chase. Justin Allgaier, Junior Motorsports guy. Jesse Love, RCR guy. Sheldon Creed, Haas Factory Team guy. Austin Hill, RCR. Corey Day, Hendrick Motorsports. Carson Quaffle, Sammy Smith, both Junior Motorsports guys. Brandon Jones, Joe Gibbs guy. Raja Caruth, Junior Motorsports guy. You might not think he's that great, but he's in Junior Motorsports equipment, so he's got good stuff. William Sawalich, Joe Gibbs Racing equipment. Same thing with Taylor Gray. Sam Mayer is that 12th guy, where it's like, his Haas factory team stuff. So it's like, it's the same 3 teams basically of Junior Motorsports, Haas factory team, and Joe Gibbs, or in RCR. So 4. Top 4 teams. Not surprising. There is one person who is playing spoiler right now and is why there's going to be this odd man out. And it's the guy driving the Viking Motorsports car that's Parker Retzlaff. I've been singing this dude's praises for weeks. Parker, hit me up if you fucking hear this, because like I'm your biggest hype man. I'm Parker Retzlaff's biggest fucking hype man. I've been sitting here for weeks talking about like this dude is out there in lower end equipment in Viking Motorsports that for however many years it's been in the O'Reilly series has been a mid to low level team. They had fucking Matt DiBenedetto in that 99 how many years ago, and they were just, they were just around. They weren't able to do anything with him. And I don't think Matty D is that bad. And for Parker to be running consistently as well as he is, I mean, even in this race, he was running up top 10 the whole race, finished 8th. Another guy who is like, there are all these years of like the Ryan Siegs was the surprise man to make it, or Harrison Burton last year was the surprise man to make it, or, Jeb Burton or whoever that like sneaks into the playoffs. This is the year of Parker Retzlaff to be a legitimate, and I'm saying he's going to be a legitimate championship contender. I'm going to say it right now. I'm not sitting here being like he'll be second or third in the points by the end of the season and he'll be, just missing the championship, or he will win the championship. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's not like he's going to make the top 12 and he's going to be 12th. I really don't think that. I think he will be kind of where he is points-wise as 9th, right? 9th. I think there's a good chance if he keeps this momentum going forward, there's a good chance, I think personally, he could be 5th, 6th. Remember, like, we're already seeing it. Austin Hill's 4th in the point standings right now. He's been not great these last few weeks. He's been outside the top 10, just inside the top 10 at best for most of the time where he's been running. Like, he's not been great. He really hasn't. Sammy Smith, I don't totally believe in yet. Corey Day is only now starting to figure it out. See if he can continue it. Like Brandon Jones, there's a guy who if you ask me to trust a dude, the last person I'm fucking trusting to run well consistently is Brandon Jones. These are all guys that are ahead of Parker. So honestly, I'd almost say by the end of the season, if Parker continues to run as well as he has been, I'd say he'd be ahead of Brandon Jones. There's a chance he's ahead of Sammy Smith, and I think he might be ahead of Austin Hill if Austin keeps fucking running the way he has been. I think he'd be ahead of Austin Hill by the end of the season. So give him those 3 spots right there. That makes him 6th in the point standings. And who knows as far as anybody else ahead of him? Who knows what happens with Carson Quaffle? Jesse Love, he's 2nd in points right now, but he's not the most consistent guy either. There's weeks where he's 2nd or 3rd on a consistent basis or leading laps. And then there are weeks where he's fucking right back there with Austin Hill, finishing 15th or 11th or outside the top 10 for just not having the speed. This in RCR the gap might be closer in the O'Reilly series than it is in the Cup series, but they're still just as inconsistent. They really are. They are just as inconsistent in the O'Reilly series as they are in the Cup series. So, Parker, if you hear this, dude, I'm your biggest hype man. Hit me up. I'll have you on the show. You can be the first ever guest on the Coop Radio ever. That'll be a nice little trivia point. Who was the first ever guest on Coop Radio? Parker fucking Retzlaff. We can talk about iRacing too, because I'm on iRacing a good amount. I think it'll be fun. Hit me up, Parker. Well, I am going to go ahead and close this up. We'll talk about guys to watch at Bristol, but no top 10 this week because the Cup Series did not race. No Cup Series race as well, so there's no recap to have about that. I already told you guys, congratulations, Matt Reaves. You're my fucking asshat of the week. So we go into Bristol this weekend. All three of the major series are at Bristol, Truck, O'Reilly, and the Cup Series. So a full weekend of racing coming off of the Sunday off that we had. I got a list of some very familiar names here to keep an eye on as far as guys to watch going into Bristol this weekend. Number one, Denny Hamlin, as far as wins behind Kyle Busch. And I'm sorry, it's not because of Kyle Busch, it's because of the team he's racing. Nobody has more wins right now, currently in the Cup Series at Bristol, other than Denny Hamlin. Coming off of the successful last few weeks that he's had, I expect him to continue that success and continue that role going forward. Speaking of continued success, number two guy to watch, I'm going to say Ty Gibbs. Average finish of 12th in the few times he's ran at Bristol, and that's before he's figured it out. He has had speed every single week. Every week he is out of nowhere, just continuously kept having good run after good run at a multitude of tracks. They're not all the same. These are all different tracks. He had a good run last week as well at Martinsville. Was running top 10, top 5 at times. So I expect Gibbs to be good next week. Also, another one of the Joe Gibbs Racing teammates, Christopher Bell, has had good success in the past at Bristol. Not to mention the Toyotas, more specifically the Joe Gibbs cars in general. They have had the most speed the last how many weeks. They have been the best team. I expect them to continue that run going into next week. The only exception I will have is the fourth guy on this list. I will pick a Chevy driver in Kyle Larson. I didn't pick Chase Elliott last week, which was a mistake, obviously, because he won. I didn't expect him to have that type of speed that he did. But I think this week, if there's any Hendrick Motorsports car to run well, I think Kyle Larson will run well at Bristol. He's not the worst there, and he's been kind of off these last couple weeks, so I expect him to rebound coming off the off week for Kyle Larson. A couple of guys that I'm going to say are underdogs. I'm going to name two. One is kind of not really an underdog, and the other one is I would still consider a true underdog. Logano is my not so true underdog. Out of nowhere, I should have expected it. I should have expected him to have come off of a abysmally bad week at Darlington and then the next week at Martinsville rebound and be running top 10 and have decent speed. I should have expected that. I really should have. It's the Logano way. Be terrible at most tracks that he runs and then every now and then be running up front and get a sneaky win. That's the Logano way. So I expect Logano to be fast at Bristol as well. And then obviously I have to pick another good short track driver driving in a Ford, my true underdog for the week to keep an eye on. I picked Ryan Preece last week. I will pick him again this week. Last week I feel like he kind of just got stuck in traffic and I felt like he could have had a better finish if he was able to maneuver through the traffic a little bit better than he did. Also, they had some problems on pit road, and as you know, especially at Martinsville, the only place you're going to really make up spots or really hurt yourself is on pit road. So I think that they clean that stuff up over the off week, and Preece can find himself a nice, good finish here at Bristol. So that's going to wrap it here for today's episode. I hope y'all enjoyed. I had a lot of different stuff to discuss to try to cover. I'm surprised I did an hour and a half. I thought with no cup race and not a lot of news, I didn't think I would have a long enough episode to really cover, but this is long enough. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all tune in next week. Tuesdays, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, fuck Pacific time, is when these things get uploaded onto YouTube. I appreciate y'all for listening. Please like the video, comment down below your thoughts, give me your opinions on myself for NASCAR, and hit the notification bell so that you know when it is 7 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays when I do actually get these things up. So, as I said, I'm going to wrap it here. I will be back next week, same time, to discuss all the happenings from Bristol. Hopefully we get a nice, fun, action-packed weekend. We got 3 races to fucking happen at Bristol, and I expect the Bristol race to be actually pretty good. They're bringing that same horsepower package that they had last weekend, or I should say 2 weekends ago. At Martinsville, they're bringing that same package back to Bristol, so it should only be better. Expect some blown tires, some guys getting loose, some crashes, some good racing, hopefully. Some better racing than we've seen in the past at Bristol. I'm excited for it. I almost blew out the mic there by saying it that loud. But I'll see y'all next week. Thanks a lot. Take it easy.